fine. It's perfect. Yep, there we go. Okay. Whew. I've got 3 recordings going that way because I have to transcribe this. So my first question, where were you born?
In Oneida, Kentucky.
So it was here and not Cincinnati.
Right.
So when did Grandpa and Grandma move to Cincinnati?
Oh, gosh. Just before Ray was born. No, wait a minute now. Ray was older than I was.
Uncle Ray was older than you?
Oh, yeah.
So it was Lois, Ray.
Yeah, I was the baby until Patty come along.
So it was Lois, Ray, Lou, you,
It was
and Mom.
Lois, Lou, Ray, me, or my little sister Marie, then me, and then Patty.
Okay. But you like remember being here, or do you have any memories like when you were born here?
No, my oldest memory is when after we moved to Cincinnati, Ray was a little boy, and he got lost and had crawled under the house, but they found him.
That sounds about right. Where did you meet Uncle Raymond then? Because you grew up in Cincinnati, but you came back here?
No, I met Raymond in Cincinnati.
What was he doing in Cincinnati?
He worked there and lived with his aunt, and he was dating my first cousin. And yeah.
Who?
And then the first time I remember actually being with Raymond was at Lunken Airport. A friend of ours, I don't even remember, who was Stanley with at that time, Raymond? But anyway, Geraldine stood him up, and I was a fill-in.
Wow. So that's how it worked. Did you have lunch at the cafeteria there, at the little restaurant that was there?
No, this was at nighttime.
Oh, okay. So then you met Uncle Raymond, and then you got married, and you came back here? Did you stay, were you in Cincinnati?
We didn't come back here until Sheila. I was pregnant with Sheila. I had Sheila here at the Oneida Hospital.
And that was 77?
Well, Raymond, that can't be right either. No, honey, I started to work with Cleet in 77. Sheila was born in 62, and Sheila was born here, and we lived here then, and right after Sheila was born, Uncle FM come and took me back to Cincinnati. We moved back to Cincinnati at that time.
Okay. Just you and Sheila, or you and everybody?
No, everybody.
Oh, okay. And
there was no work here.
Yeah. There's never been much work here, though. But, so you had, at that point you had Sheila, but then you had...
Sandy.
So there was Sandy, Sheila, Debbie. But you didn't have Sam yet.
No.
Who am I forgetting? Betty Jo. I forgot Betty Jo. But then you came back to Clay County, and then you got a job working for Cletus. So that was one of the jobs that was available.
My first job back here was at White Chevrolet. Then I went to work for the Laurel Creek Nursing Home. And then it was after that that I went to work for Cletus.
And
Well, I
what
worked
did
for
you-
Rick and Cleet in the law office first, and then when Cleet become judge, I become pretrial officer and worked for the state, and then went to work for Cleet when I retired from the state. I retired from the state in 77.
And that was doing the pre-trial. Wait, so that wasn't the pre-trial thing? What were you doing for the state?
I worked as pretrial officer. I interviewed all the jail inmates.
Oh, okay. But then for Cleat, you were doing. Well, you were
Just
clerk?
secretary and paralegal.
Okay. And you didn't have to have like a certification for that, did you?
No,
At the time.
at the time.
So that was good. Do you remember what other jobs they had here, like back then?
Back then, if you didn't work for the Board of Education, it was very hard to find a job.
Is it still like that?
Yep.
I thought
Sure is.
so. Bobby, I'm doing that interview. Can you take him in there, please? Because I gotta. You go with him, Win-Win.
Winston.
Go on.
Listen, come on.
Go on, Winston. Go waste him. Go waste him.
Oh,
Let me
he's
put
mad
this
at
back
me
on
for
the bed.
that, honey.
You're fine. Lay down. So yeah, there's no jobs.
Leave the door open. He'll come in a minute when he gets ignored in here.
Yeah. So Board of Education, I mean, that's really still the only. There's
That's
just
the
not an
only-
economy.
The Board of Education, and I mean, now you can't even hardly get on at the nursing home unless you know somebody. But
Okay.
Board of Education is the primary employer.
If you could, what are some misconceptions that you see about life in rural America, i.e., Clay County, Manchester, Kentucky?
Well, it's not really a fair place to live here in Clay County.
Yeah.
To get anywhere or to get anything done, you got to know somebody, or you've got to be in the clique, what they call it.
Because there's a hierarchy here.
Right.
With the not only elected officials, but definitely the police, definitely the Board of Education.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything in Clay County is controlled by a small group of people.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people leave here and go to a city or go to London or go to Corbin to move to find work.
A lot of kids leave here too
Yeah.
for opportunities because there just isn't really anything here.
Right.
What kind of resources or support do you think would help sustain this community or strengthen the community? Like what would make it better
Honest
here? What people
elections.
need? Honest elections. Then we would have to talk about the whole vote buying
Right.
business.
Well, actually, they've got all kinds of, opportunities now, but nobody advertises them, so people don't know about them. See, I didn't know about a lot of this stuff until you came.
Yeah, they're having more food banks for sure.
Yeah.
And like community.
Right, but they don't advertise it, so people don't know about it.
This
And
is
then a
true.
lot of that is a joke too, because
You
even
have to
people
know
who
people.
don't really need it go load up on it, and
What's the kind of people that you don't think needs it?
well, people who have jobs and make good money and have big fine homes,
Like Liberty Hills kind of homes.
right?
Yeah, that's
And
probably why they have their money. They're getting stuff on the side for sure. But there's not enough resources here.
no, there's not.
Yeah, that is something that I have definitely seen. What about education? Seems like education's not a priority. Sandra in Carolyn are sending their kids to freaking OBI of all places.
Well, but that's not because of the education system. It's because they feel that they get more attention at OBI. They feel that there's not, there's beginning to be drugs in school, in a lot of the schools, probably most of them.
In the middle schools?
In the middle schools, even in the grade schools.
Oh, wow.
And the problem, in my opinion, and that's strictly my opinion, through a lot of the faculty.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And that would probably sound crazy to anyone listening.
And
to this,
besides
but...
that, Sandra is in the process of wanting to get a job at OBI.
Okay.
And in Debbie's situation, it's harder on Debbie because she has to get out every morning and cross that swinging bridge and drive, I can't remember if it's 2 mile or 3 mile or 5 mile, to Route 11 in order to put Cooper on the bus.
Wow.
Sandra drives from Jackson County, where she lives, to the head of Laurel to put Chloe on the bus every morning.
Oh my God.
And then has to go back and be there to pick her up. And same way with Cooper. Deb has to be back down there at Highway 11, and the road she's on, I think, is 577.
Crazy.
And this winter, I don't know how Deb's going to do it. Because when the river's up, you have to walk that swinging bridge. Now, when the river ain't up, Deb can drive across the river right to her door. But this winter, with the snow and ice, she ain't going to be able to do that.
Yeah. So that's a lot that they both have to go through to access.
Right, and there's not as many
education.
kids in the classroom at OBI as there is, at your...
Right.
Well, they were both going to Burning Springs.
I've heard there's not a lot of resources either. A couple of my friends here have kids that are in Manchester, and it's not good. They don't follow their
The
IEPs.
biggest resource that they have is free lunches. I mean, and free breakfast.
I was gonna say, do they have free breakfast? They have that at Atticus's school, and sometimes that's the only meal that these kids get is the free breakfast and the free lunch every day. So, yeah, it's definitely important. How do you think growing up in a rural area has shaped your relationships with family and friends?
Well, it hasn't really, because all my family's here with me and have always been here with me, except when Sandy, had to go to Germany when she was married and her husband got sent to Germany and she went to Germany. That's the only time we've ever really been apart. So it hasn't affected me.
Yeah.
But, like going and seeing my sisters, that creates a problem because I don't drive, but, when Mom and Dad were alive, we didn't go up there that often. We were always here close to his Mom and Dad, but...
Right.
But anytime I wanted to go when Mom and Dad was alive, Raymond was always willing to take me, or I'd get in the car and go myself.
I imagine it's not easy, though, to go away for a weekend when you've got, kids
6 kids,
work,
right.
And, yeah.
Right, and that was the big thing, because, I had to work and then had the kids. So, no, that wasn't easy, from here, anyway.
And it's not, and that's something that's really common to rural area, like families. You see a lot of families that stay together, they're in the same local area, like in the same holler.
Right.
And that's not something that
Yeah, and
obviously
see, that's
see
what this
where
is. I
live.
mean, this is strictly family. His mom and dad lived in a big house, I don't know how many years. And then
Which big house?
where Shirley and Paul lived, the first
Oh,
house you come to,
that was their house?
that was Granny Toad and...
So whose house was this? I thought this was their house.
No, his Uncle Denny, his dad's brother, owned this house.
Oh, okay.
And then his dad's sister raised her family in this house, Othie and Joni Hensley. And then when they left here, Denny and his wife Martha, they had 2 children. And then after, Aunt Mag bought it, then his cousin RV bought it, and Rita Lynn come one time to stay, or a couple of times anyway. At one of the times she was here, a snake was in the house, so she never would come back. And then Raymond's daddy bought it for us, and at that time it was just 4 rooms.
Do you remember how much it was? How much you bought it for?
I have no idea.
But I mean, it was literally 4 rooms. I'm guessing that
Right.
one, and then I think I remember that one, and then you had a tiny bathroom.
We didn't even have a bathroom.
Oh, that's right. There was.
When we first moved here, we didn't have running water in the house, and we didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have a bathtub. We bathed either in the creek in the summertime or in a bathtub in the winter.
I remember you had well water.
Yeah.
I do remember you had well water.
Yeah,
it
we
had
still have
sulfur.
the well.
You still have the well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that because it had sulfur in it. I still remember that smell. But then you guys built all this stuff on it, so now it's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
What are some unexpected benefits of living in rural America for you? What do you think the benefits are?
Benefits is being able to get out and do things, raise a big garden, ride to the top of the mountain. But one of the main benefits coming up is going to be protection. Because in my opinion, we're getting ready to see some really bad times.
Protection.
That's my opinion.
Just random people.
Random people.
Very people are gonna get hungry.
Very few people have the nerve to come up in this holler and come down this lane.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It takes me some. Yeah, and I'm sure it does, and that's probably a good thing. But yeah, I feel like we are headed for some bad times for sure.
Yep, that's what I believe.
When you, if you could teach somebody who's not from here, never been here, like city dweller all their life, like my kid, for example, if you could teach somebody one thing about this culture, what would it be?
Survival.
That's a good answer. I don't think a lot of people know really what it takes to survive or...
They don't. They've never been taught.
How to do it. No, and I mean, he's never had to learn. And really, I didn't either. So, yeah. I think that's something that rural America knows probably better than anybody else. Describe your experience realizing how different, or I guess just how different it is, because you lived in Cincinnati. You lived in Cincinnati.
We lived in Cincinnati. We lived in Florida. We've lived in West Virginia. We've lived in Texas.
Ooh, why? Ew. Gross.
We lived in Beaumont, Texas.
But I
And
feel like it's like Cincinnati's like the most opposite. Is it the most opposite up here that you've lived?
oh yeah,
Because you
yeah,
lived
because we
on.
weren't in Beaumont that long, and we weren't
Yeah.
in West Virginia that long, and yeah, it's complete opposite of Cincinnati.
You were
I mean,
on, was it Central Parkway where Grandpa had his store, or Victory Parkway? I can't remember.
he
It
had
was Queens.
his
Was it
first
Queen City Avenue or Queen
his
Avenue?
first store was on Broadway, right in downtown Cincinnati, right across the street from where I went to school, which I think now it's called Old Woodward. Used to be Abigail Cutter.
Oh, okay.
And
so
when I went to school, see, I went to Peasley, which is in that same little downtown area. Peasley's where I went to grade school.
So, and when was that?
Oh my Lord.
Was that during segregation?
Oh yeah, yeah. There were black kids there then.
Oh, so it was after segregation.
Yeah.
Because you were going, okay. So, but that, I mean, that was like, how different is that from your experience there from here? Because it's night and day for me. When I leave home and come down here, it's just night and day. How is your, like, how do you feel about, like, what's the most difference for you, I guess, between the both of them?
Actually, hey, being able to go to town without fear of somebody trying to shoot me or rob me or kill me or whatever.
But do you think that's legitimate?
Yeah.
I mean, were you ever robbed in Cincinnati?
Well, no, but there's been times that I really feared for my life, especially when we lived on Harrison Avenue, or not Harrison Avenue, on McMillan.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a bunch of pure idiots that lived on the first floor. We lived on the third floor. So there was one way in and one way out.
It is, it's all very expensive condos now, McMillan.
Really?
They've gentrified the entire area. Like, at this point, you can't even buy into this area for less than $500,000.
Are you serious?
Not kidding.
See, I ain't been in Cincinnati, even in the downtown area, for years and years and years.
It's we're there all the time. Like, it's crazy. You can't afford. It's so expensive to live, like, around over the Rhine.
Do you hear that,
McMillan.
On McMillan, it's all condos and stuff.
McMillan?
Yeah.
Very expensive. Very, very expensive.
Mm.
Like, they really.
Well, McMillan ran up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
We lived on McMillan. McMicken that ran across McMillan.
Oh yeah, that's all gentrified
And see,
too.
we lived in the building. Like, here was our building. There was one more building. Then there was this driveway and the steps that went up to the park on top of Mount Auburn Hill there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joyce lived right at those steps. And that's where the, was it the Strangler, Raymond, that they got? He had killed several people. And that's where they caught him at, was up on those steps.
I'm gonna have to get into that. I'll have to research that because I love true crime.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But it's funny that you think, or that you feel safer here. You felt unsafe in the city, when the opposite I think is true for some people. Like me, I'm not gonna go driving in some parts of Clay County after dark. Just because I feel the same way you feel about the city, it's just...
Really?
Well, I mean, yeah. But as a 16-year-old, I knew a lot about what actually went on in some of these places.
Yeah, well, Backstreet ain't there no more, so
wasn't great.
that's one thing. See, after we left Cincinnati, we moved to Milford, then we moved to Blanchester, and I was having to drive from there every morning to get to work on Coleraine Avenue.
Oh my God.
So
you were driving far east over
Yeah.
to the far west side.
Right.
Yeah, no, not would have done that. That's a lot. So I mean, I guess then that's why it doesn't bother you to have to drive 15 miles to the store here.
Right.
Because that's something that you're used to. Have you experienced any stereotypes against the Appalachian and rural communities, and how has it affected your view on the Appalachian people, which is
Lord,
you're the Appalachian people.
stereotypes.
Yeah, you know how people view people like you who live in rural Appalachia.
Well, we've got them right there in Manchester.
So you think like that they have a view on people who live on
In
the
the Hollers?
outskirts of town?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What's their stereotype? Like, what do they think about you all?
We're low class. We're poor
Really?
people. We're below them.
So there's classes even in different levels of classes, I guess.
Right.
Wow. That's wild.
There's low, lower, druggies, walkers.
That's
And then
crazy.
there's, well, I don't know of any middle class in this area, but then the high class comes into being that jumps.
Wow. So like Liberty Hills people and...
Well, no, not just Liberty Hills. Liberty Hills is a recent place. You've got Manchester Heights right there in town up on the hill. You've got East Manchester and their uppities.
Well, we were up there today because I took the old road back out to town, and there are no big houses out there. So
out where?
in East Manchester, unless I missed something, it's all kind of little craftsman houses.
No, in East Manchester, if you cross that bridge
By the eye doctor?
by the eye doctor and turn to your right and then or else go straight up the hill and then take a right.
Okay.
You know.
We didn't go that far. So they've gentrified that area. Basically, they're...
See, I ain't even been over in East Manchester, and I couldn't tell you how many years.
Yeah, I wanted to see what it looked like. It hadn't changed at all.
Basically, where we go is from here to Save-A-Lot, or from here to Walmart, or to IGA. Well, we did go to Oneida the other day. And I hadn't even been down there for a while since OBI had remodeled and
You went up to
done
OBI.
landscaping, and well, we drove by. Oh, we went to vote. That's why we went to Oneida.
And that's another thing. You had to go all the way to Oneida to vote.
Right.
Which is what, 11 miles?
11 miles from the head of Laurel.
On a country
It's
road.
about 6 miles from here.
Yeah, on a winding country road to go to vote, which...
And we voted at the fire department. And this year, when I was an election officer, and we voted at the same place, and our voting machines were facing against the back wall, nobody could see how you were voting. This year, one voting machine was facing this way and one was facing this way, and the election officer could stand right there and watch every vote you did. Of course, it didn't matter to me. And the one on this side had a woman sitting where she could see the other machine.
But isn't that...
So there was no privacy, like there should have been.
Right, like, that's part of voting.
But I didn't care. I mean, they all know that I'm a Democrat anyway, so it's...
I know, but, I mean, you know how people are, like, most of the people voted for Trump, and...
Oh, I'm sure everybody at OBI would have voted for Trump.
Which is disgusting.
Well, in fact, everybody in Clay County just about votes for Trump.
I know it, but people should have that privacy, because Yeah, they take this shit way too seriously. If you could choose one cultural export to share with the world, what would it be and why?
What do you mean cultural
Like,
export?
if there's one thing that's specific or unique to rural areas that you could share with people, like, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, your language is unique to this region. Your food. The food is unique to this region. Like, where I live, a typical dinner is not going to be like salmon patties and corn from the garden because most people don't have gardens, and green beans from the garden because most people don't have gardens. So food, like.
Well, I mean, that's a culture that we have that a lot of cities don't have. Being able to raise your food and put it away and have it for the next year.
Right. You do a lot of canning.
Being able to breathe without somebody being in your face. You know, like,
nice.
Oh, she looked at me funny. Call the law. You know, I don't know how to explain.
We don't call the police down here.
Well, the police won't come up this holler. They're afraid.
Yeah, well, they're little bitches. I can't put that in my transcript. I'm going to have to edit that out. What do you think has stayed the same about Clay County, and what do you think has changed over the years?
Well, they're a little bit more private with their dealings.
You're talking about like drug dealings?
No, I'm talking about, no, they ain't no privacy on the drug dealings.
Right?
But
everybody always knows who's doing it.
On how they handle things, like you don't see them out publicly buying votes. They do it the night before under the table, and you don't see them openly, like in your courtrooms and that. We used to have this church that sat in the courtroom, and everybody that come before the court, those people, it was like they were sitting there to make the decision instead of a jury or the judge, you know, making a decision.
Right. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
That was when Doug Abner and them had, well, they've still got the school and the church up there. I don't know if Doug Abner's even alive right now, but he had a group. They called them the Court Watchers. And they had a group that came in and sat in the courtroom to make sure the judges were doing what they wanted done. And
it should have been called the busybodies.
Yeah, well, it was Court Watchers.
For sure. Yeah, I remember when
But now we have got an advantage now that has wound up being a halfway decent thing, and that is our drug court. I mean, there has been a lot of people that have gone to drug court and have survived and have gotten off of the drugs and has convinced other people to do the same. In fact, one of the first ones that I had on home incarceration was a Horse Creek person. And, I mean, he was in bad shape. And right now, he's teaching at the Hope Center in Lexington.
Nice.
And helping other druggies, you know, get off and get straightened up.
Nice.
And I can't even remember that boy's name, and I feel bad about that. But it's been, you know, many years ago. It's when I first started doing this.
Yeah. They didn't have that one.
But see,
I was
like here, the Oneida area's got a bad name. Horse Creek has got a bad name.
They've always had
But
a
there's
bad
a
name.
lot of really good, hard-working people that live in Horse Creek. But they're
Yeah.
disadvantaged just like people in Oneida and, Redbird and Bullskin.
Right.
Because of how people look at them.
Yeah. So there's definitely a system of classism.
Right.
Even here in Manchester, Kentucky, very rural area. Yeah, they don't have drug court like they didn't have it when I was a teenager.
Now, see, we now have drug courts here in Clay County. We have it in Jackson County and in Leslie County. And I'm sure it's all over the state.
They just like sentence them to rehab. Is that how that works?
Well, no, they have to attend meetings once a week. And then the judge meets with them after their meeting is over. They give them the opportunity, they help get them jobs, they give them the opportunity to do things in the community, to attempt to better themselves. I mean, it's been a really good thing, in my opinion.
Do you feel like they're cracking down on the drug dealers?
No.
Yeah.
They never have cracked down on the dealers. It's just the poor old suckers who...
Yeah, who buy the drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured there's so many pharmacies. Like in this little town.
Yeah, in a
so
town of what, 2,200 people?
Right.
And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I counted 7.
7, yeah. There were
today.
8, but then they closed the one down there.
Yeah.
Right across
7.
from Burger King.
Yeah, 7 pharmacies for 2,200 people. Like it's just insane. I saw Dr. Zizapor's daughter today down in town. She had a sign.
In town or at the? She's usually at Save-A-Lot.
No, she was in town. Across from Chevron because we went to Walmart first.
Oh.
She was in town. She had her little sign and she was just standing there itching and.
She has lost so much weight, and she's. I begged them. I even went to court with her when I had her on home incarceration, and I tried to get not only Dr. Azizapur to help, but we tried to get her committed. Because she's mental, and and then she gets her check, and the minute she gets her check, everybody wants to help her, and they get her all drugged up and take her money.
Yeah.
And she's pitiful. She really is pitiful.
It was really sad to see.
But Dr. Azizapur himself wouldn't even attempt. See, he's raising her son, and then her mom, who lives in California, has her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, but she's never had any help. Nobody cared enough.
I thought it was so sad to see her. I mean, I was surprised she was alive because she's been doing this a long time. But
yeah, she's lost so much weight, Liz. I mean,
really
she's
sad.
pitiful.
Yeah. I think the last one, which this is pretty, it's easy, it's a no-brainer. If you had your choice, would you choose urban or rural?
Rural, definitely rural.
And you decided to live here all these years just because your family settled here, because you like the rural lifestyle, basically, all those
because
things.
I wanted to survive.
And you felt like you couldn't survive in Cincinnati?
No.
Okay.
Not the way things are now. I mean, yeah, certain areas of Cincinnati is fine. But just like Lou, she bought that house, and at the time she moved, that area and that neighborhood was middle-class people, working people, and now Bobby won't hardly walk out the door and go anywhere because it has went downhill that bad.
I think he's got agoraphobia. I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Bobby, but
Well,
there
see,
is.
one thing that's going wrong with Bobby is he used to go out all the time and bands and and then he got hijacked, stole his car.
Remember that?
They stripped him. They stole his money. They beat him half to death.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he went through a lot, and that's one reason why he's in the condition and shape he's in right now. Because after that, he was afraid to go do anything. And then, because of his mental state and he draws, not a pension, but I guess it's SSI.
Well, that's good. I was
Although
worried about how
he
was
worked,
getting by.
so he's probably drawing Social Security too, on a disability side of it.
Well, that's good.
Because he always worked.
Right. I was wondering how he was getting by, but I'm glad that he's got that at least.
But that area, that's why that it took him so long. He was sure that somebody had killed Lou when she opened the garage to come into the garage.
Yeah, he told me that too.
Yeah, and but after they finally got the autopsies and everything done,
it was just a heart attack, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she was, 83? It's not, it was not, yeah. But he was looking for answers, I get that.
Right.
I just hate that he's like that now, but that's what trauma will do to you, I guess. It's wild to me, though. It's kind of interesting that you think Cincinnati's so dangerous, and I think that Manchester is dangerous. It's just interesting that we both have that opinion in these places.
Well, there's a lot of places, the outskirts of Cincinnati, that are beautiful places and good places to live, but the cost of living to live in those places, people can't afford it. But as far as the city area of Cincinnati, oh my God. I wouldn't walk down one of them streets after dark I wouldn't hardly walk down one of them in the daytime, let alone after dark.
It's changed a lot. I think you'd be surprised. There's still some places in Cincinnati that, we don't really want to go, but that's just kind of how it is. Alright, that is all I have. That's all my questions.
Oh, really?
It's 42 minutes.
Oh, I thought you said it was going to take a couple hours.
No. It'll probably take me a couple hours to type it all out.
So now can I get up and go get me something to drink?
Yeah.